Hey guys, today we're going to talk about a concept that I call second skin. This might be too long for one video, so we may break it up into two, so you may see a part two, but we'll see if we can get into it. We're going to be talking about health things. We're going to be coming back to the COVID test, the over-the-air COVID test video that we've did, I think, right in the beginning. But a lot of this basically revolves around preventative medicine and sensing, home testing, things like that. So we're going to hit quite a few areas. I'm going to try see if I can do it see if I can do it as simple as possible. So basically, a lot of this comes down to and is predicated on this idea that basically Western medicine, at least in Australia, the US, doesn't matter what type of medicine or healthcare system that you have, most places in these areas, or okay, let me just talk about Australia, but I know it's similar in other places, it's all based on reactive healthcare. That means for most people, and I can definitely talk about myself, I only really go to the doctor, especially, yes, you can talk about young age, but really at all levels, pretty much, let's say most levels, we don't make continuous appointments to the doctor just because, right? We go to the doctor when something crops up, when something happens. And that's a lot of times that we actually find out these more fatal or bigger problems with our bodies, things that are happening, usually starts off with a visit to the doctor about a broken elbow or something like that, and then once they're there and they take some tests, they then find something else and like, oh no, let's check into this. There's so many stories that happen. We can go a lot into that, but I think I want to focus on where I think this place is going, where healthcare is going, and what I think are good ideas to get there. I believe very much in preventative medicine. I believe that we should be trying to move to a direction where we're constantly monitoring and we're constantly on the lookout for things that could be going wrong inside of our bodies. There's lots of different stories I want to share with you guys and lots of examples. We're not going to have time for them, so I definitely encourage you guys to get in touch with me and ask me for those, and we can continue dialoguing about that, or I can do that in another video. But a lot of this concept, what it breaks down to, what it comes down to, in what I think what this idea is, and where I think that we will ultimately be going. I do believe that this is not I believe this is going to be the future and where we're going to be going. We're going to get to a point where we're going to start monitoring ourselves constantly. Now, I don't believe, I'm not saying that we're going to be monitoring ourselves to the point that we're going to be making a point to monitor ourselves. I want to get to monitoring that happens automatically, that we're not even aware of. And I also don't believe that we should be alerted to every single time that something happens. I believe in something more like, let me outline what I believe in, right? I think that we're going to have tons of sensors that we are soon going to be wearing. We're not going to go to a doctor's office, or we're not going to go to the hospital to deal with these things. To get like those big tests that we have now with these big massive machines, those machines are going to get miniaturized into very, very small sensors. These sensors wow, I'm trying to hurry up because I'm trying to get this all in, and there's so many things that I want to talk about. These sensors are going to be miniaturized into things that we call wearables. If you remember the idea with augmented sound, that is all about a hearable. Hearable is a computer that is designed for hearing, but that's also worn, so it's a segment of wearables. Wearables are basically computers that we wear, right? And that's going to be a direction of where most computers are going to go into. Augmented reality, glasses, contact lenses, those are parts of wearable computers. So whether it's going to be things like jewelry, whether it's going to be things like accessories, or whether it's going to be things like clothing, we will soon have lots of these things that are going to be embedded with sensors. These sensors will be tracking tons and tons of pieces of information. Now, let's go back and look into what are we doing today. We spoke about, in the over-the-air COVID test, I spoke about the Apple Watch again, and I told you about how I wasn't a fan of it when it started because of the screen, but as they moved to more of an area of sensing and going to healthcare and going to this kind of area where the Apple Watch became that wearable, specifically dealing with healthcare and things like that, I started actually sitting up and paying attention to it, and now I think it's going to be a very, very important piece. Whether it's going to be the Apple Watch or whether it's going to be built into another form of wearable, this is the direction we're going, and this is the direction we have to go. Healthcare is going to be changing, not through socialist healthcare or things like those. I think those things are too small-minded. Really, what we are going to, the way we're going to, I believe the future of healthcare is really preventative, and that's going to be startups, small companies that are going to be create these sensors, going to be creating these wearables where each of us are going to be walking around with basically an army of sensors that are going to be constantly monitoring our body. Whether it's something that's going to be taken when we're brushing our teeth in front of a smart mirror and it's embedded into a room in our house, or whether some sensors, or whether there are other sensors are going to be into clothes. You have things like Google has built things into different sensors into fabrics. Those things are going to be huge. You have fabrics that can control computers, but I'm not really going to be focusing on that. I'm going to focus on the healthcare. I really believe that the future is clothing that we will be wearing day in, day out, that it'll have more of a use than just protecting our body or just making sure that we're protected from the elements and we can go outside, whether it's just fashion, things like that. A very, very big part of computers are going to be housing these sensors of the future. So just to touch upon some of them, just to give you some idea of what's already happening. You got a company, and just looking into the story, I've seen this a couple times, and when I looked into it today, yes, there are a couple teams and a couple companies that are going to this. One example is like, let's say, a smart bra. There are a few companies. One I think is called a smart bra. One's called Eva, and one's by an Israeli company called Vayar. I actually just met one of the engineers from Vayar, a company that I actually met with them a couple years ago in Israel and saw their technology. Very, very cool. But they're all doing it in different forms. So some of them are using ultrasound, some of them are using Vayar's using radar, and the other one I think was using it didn't say exactly the technology it was using, but it basically was just saying it was using artificial intelligence to detect I think it was it was detecting the blood flow through the breast tissue. So whatever it is, all of them are basically looking at a future where you're not going to have to go to a hospital to get a mammogram or something that could be that could have a bit too much radiation or uncomfortable or periodic and not something that you get very often, into something that's wearable. Now, some of these are already selling these bras. They're not really widely available yet, but we are going to see a future where this thing is going to become more common. They're going from once a day for, I think some of them say you wear it for 60, 70 minutes, to soon some of them are looking at how can we do it continuously through the day, through small periods of time. Whatever it is and whatever those companies are doing, which is really cool, they're all looking to this direction of miniaturizing things that now exist in doctor's offices or big hospitals, things that you only get if you go specifically to go take that test and to get tested. To something that can be worn, something that the price can come down. Those sensors are miniaturized into pieces of article, and those things are being taken more often. Obviously nowadays, those prototypes and those first stages of, like for specifically this bra, is really to get more data, and for people that already have cancer to be able to detect. To be able to get more data to see how to better detect it. But the future is going to be everybody. Every woman's going to wear that. And it's not going to be because they're scared of it. It's just going to that's going to be the normal thing. You're going to detect it much earlier. I think cancerous cells, they start actually 2 years before they're actually detected, visibly detected. They start that journey of becoming cancerous 2 years early. And if you had something that was continuously monitoring different cells and flagging them, going, oh, let's look at that a little bit more, you're going to detect it months and months, if not years earlier than currently we detect these things. Now, the Apple Watch is definitely going in the direction of detecting so many things in the blood. We've already got blood oxygen. We're soon going to go into blood glucose monitoring, blood alcohol, blood pressure, body temperature. So the Apple Watch is going to do a lot, and it's packing a lot. Think about the Apple Watch and what it's packing into its technology, and think of that going into clothing, and think of those sensors being actually closer to the body parts that it's actually sensing. Now think of hundreds and thousands of those being not easily detected, miniature ones that are all over doing all different jobs. I think we may have to go into another video, but that's the beginning of the second skin, the idea of wearable sensors that are monitoring and doing preventative healthcare. this is where I think the direction is going. I'd love to hear where you think this direction is going and some of our ideas. And beyond that, I'll see you guys in the future.